Did you ever ponder about the secretive and thrilling world of pirates? Who were they really? What drove them to the life of piracy? The allure of pirates is not solely a product of recent culture. Their charm has been captivating us for centuries. The image of a pirate, with his eye patch, peg leg, and a parrot perched on his shoulder, is deeply ingrained in our collective imagination. But who were these seafaring renegades really? They've been romanticized as swashbuckling adventurers, but beneath the facade there lies a much darker, less glamorous reality. Pirates were not just rebels without a cause, navigating the high seas in search of treasure and adventure. They were desperate men and women, often driven to piracy by harsh economic conditions, oppressive regimes, or the simple desire for freedom. Their lives were fraught with danger, not just from the elements and the constant threat of capture, but also from within their own ranks. The world of pirates was a world of its own, a society on the fringes of civilization, where the rules were made and broken at the whim of the strongest. It was a world of fierce loyalty and brutal betrayal, of unimaginable riches and dire poverty, of thrilling exploits and tragic ends. Despite their brutal reputation, pirates also played a significant role in shaping our world. They challenged the status quo, defying powerful empires and carving out their own place in history. They were catalysts for change, their actions sparking wars, inspiring revolutions, and even contributing to the birth of democracy. But as fascinating as their stories may be, it's important to remember that pirates were not the heroes of their own tales. They were outlaws, living on the edge of society, their lives marked by violence and lawlessness. The romanticized image of the pirate is a far cry from the harsh reality of their existence. So who were these pirates? What were their lives really like? And why, despite their notorious reputation, are we still so captivated by them? Join me as we embark on a journey through time, unearthing the truth of the pirate's world. Our voyage begins in the ancient seas where piracy was born. In the murky depths of history, the first pirates began to make waves. The earliest records of piracy date back to the 14th century BC, during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten of Egypt. These marauders of the sea were known as the Sea Peoples. They were a confederation of seafaring raiders who caused chaos and disorder, troubling the Egyptians and making the ancient seas a dangerous place to navigate. From the Mediterranean to the Aegean Sea, piracy became a perilous part of seafaring life. In ancient Greece, piracy was not seen as an inherently dishonorable act. In fact, many respected figures, including Julius Caesar, were once captives of pirates. These early seafarers were more than mere bandits of the sea. They were integral to the maritime economy of the time. They traded goods, transported people, and even served as mercenaries in times of war. The Romans, however, held a different view. To them, pirates were enemies of the state and were dealt with harshly. They launched numerous military campaigns against pirates, culminating in the monumental war against the notorious pirate king Sextus Pompeius. But despite their best efforts, the Roman Empire could not completely eradicate piracy. The lure of easy riches proved too strong, and for many the call of the sea was irresistible. These early pirates set the course for what was to come. They were the precursors to the infamous buccaneers and privateers of the Golden Age of Piracy. They established the foundations of the pirate code, the unwritten laws of the sea that governed pirate life. It was a life fraught with danger and uncertainty, but it was also one of freedom and adventure. As centuries passed, piracy evolved, its sails catching the winds of change. The dawn of piracy had broken, illuminating a world where fortune favored the bold, and the sea was the ultimate battleground. The story of piracy is as vast and fathomless as the ocean itself, forever etched in the annals of maritime history. We now set course for the Golden Age of Piracy, a time of infamous names and notorious deeds. Our journey takes us to the Caribbean during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. This era was the zenith of pirate activity, a tumultuous period marked by audacious exploits and legendary figures. Among these were Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, and Captain William Kidd. These men have been immortalized in history and fiction alike, their tales echoing across the centuries. Blackbeard, with his fearsome appearance and ruthless tactics, terrorized the seas, while William Kidd's story is one of a respectable man-turned-pirate. Kidd was a privateer, a sort of legal pirate who crossed the line into outright piracy. Their exploits have left an indelible mark on our collective imagination, painting a vivid portrait of this lawless era. But what led to this explosion of piracy? The reasons were manifold. The end of the War of Spanish Succession left many sailors out of work and desperate. With no jobs and no pay, they turned to piracy as a means of survival. The Caribbean, with its bustling trade routes and weak colonial governance, provided the perfect breeding ground for these buccaneers. Moreover, the political and economic landscape of the time played a significant role. England, France, and Spain, the colonial powers of the time, were constantly at odds. Pirates often found themselves used as pawns in this geopolitical game, their actions indirectly influencing the balance of power. This age of sea rovers had a profound impact on the colonial powers. It disrupted trade, threatened colonial rule, and forced these powers to confront the issue of piracy head-on. This pressure led to the implementation of harsher laws and the increased presence of navies in the Caribbean. The Golden Age couldn't last forever, and with the winds of change came the decline of piracy. But that's a tale for another day. For now, let's savor the thrilling stories of this era, where the Jolly Roger flew high and the echoes of cannon fire filled the air. Like the setting sun, the era of traditional piracy was heading towards its twilight. As the 17th century advanced, the world of pirates began to face significant challenges. The once sprawling seas, teeming with opportunities for plunder, were gradually becoming less hospitable for these maritime marauders. The primary reason for this decline was the increased naval presence on the high seas. Nations such as England, Spain, and France had begun to invest heavily in their naval forces, expanding their fleets and establishing regular patrols along key trade routes. This increased vigilance made it increasingly difficult for pirates to operate with impunity. Their once safe havens and hideouts were now under the constant watchful gaze of the naval authorities. In addition to this, the end of legal privateering also played a major role in the decline of piracy. Privateering, a practice where private individuals were authorized by governments to attack enemy ships, had long provided a quasi-legal cover for many pirates. However, as global politics evolved and wars became less frequent, the need for privateers diminished, and with it, the legal cover that many pirates had relied upon. By the late 17th century, the last of the pirates were making their final stand. Men like William Kidd and Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, faced trials and executions marking the end of an era. Their fates served as stark reminders that the age of lawlessness on the high seas was coming to an end. Yet while the traditional form of piracy was drawing to a close, it was not completely extinguished. It merely adapted, shifting from the high seas to the shadows of the law, hiding in the loopholes and gray areas of international maritime law. Though traditional piracy has ended, its legacy continues to echo across the waves. From the legends and lore that still captivate us, to the modern forms of piracy that persist today, the impact of these seafaring thieves remains a vital part of our shared history. In the modern world, the shadow of piracy looms in different forms. The image of the swashbuckling buccaneer, while romantic, has been replaced by something far less glamorous but equally dangerous. Today's pirates operate in hotspots like the waters off Somalia, armed with automatic weapons and speedboats rather than cutlasses and galleons. These modern marauders continue to pose a significant threat to international shipping and coastal communities. Despite the efforts of global navies and law enforcement, piracy remains a persistent issue. The causes are complex, often rooted in poverty, political instability, and the lure of easy riches. Just as in the days of Blackbeard and Calico Jack, these contemporary corsairs find themselves caught up in a high-risk, high-reward game where the line between outlaw and entrepreneur often blurs. But let's step away from the tumultuous seas of today and cast our gaze back over the broad sweep of pirate history we've charted. We began with the dawn of piracy, a nebulous era where the line between pirate, privateer, and navy was as fluid as the waters they sailed. We journeyed through the Golden Age of Piracy, a period of flamboyant figures and audacious exploits that forever seared the image of the pirate into our collective consciousness. We then witnessed the decline and end of classic piracy, a combination of increased naval power, shifting economic realities, and the relentless march of progress. The era of pirates ruling the high seas came to a close, but their legacy lived on, evolving and adapting to the changing tides of history. No matter how much time passes, the allure of the pirate's life continues to captivate us. But as we've seen, The truth of piracy is more complex than the legends suggest. The echoes of their cannons may have faded, but their impact still ripples through history.